Hello, everyone. Welcome to the contributor meeting. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Leo, and usually we start always with triage discussion. For this week, we had Ishita and Remington for doing triage. So I see you online, Ishita. So
Yeah.
please
So,
lead the way.
so actually, like the way how Dan gave all the information about last week, the number of new issues and everything. So I've added that, and bugs were known ones which I came across. There was only one enhancement which I found was different, was regarding the pod summary. So right now, the user was requesting if we could have a pod summary in the UI when it restarts. So I'm not sure if everyone would like it, but I found it would be very cool for the users to get all the information on the UI regarding this.
Okay, so you want me to open the issue, Ishita, or it is
Uh,
okay?
yeah, I just wanted to see if we are thinking to add this in our roadmap for the future releases. So yeah. There's not much, I think. Even for this, we either would need some proposal or something. But yeah,
To fuse the summary. And what is summary? What it means by summary in this case? Pod summary?
I it just means that how many time every pod gets restarted when the app gets restarted. So it's something like that. They want that information regarding that.
Let's see. It gives me the impression it tries to add its information in the pod itself. Not sure I understand what pod summary.
Yeah,
in
it's
the
unclear to me as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know either what is meant by pod summary, right? The pod summary in the UI. Do they mean the icon of the pod? Do they want a little bubble there as well, or yeah, that's a little unclear to me as well.
Okay. Because the pod summary reads from the pod state, right? So if you want to add additional information there, we would have to add additional state in the pod. I'm not sure whether or not this is a Argo CD main responsibility. So yeah.
I think the information is there, right? Like if you look at the pod.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
It will give you
Yes.
the number of restarts.
Okay.
Somewhere in the status. It's
right.
just unclear to me where should this be exposed, right? Should it be when you I think it's already visible if you click into the pod. I don't know.
So Leo, I guess we do show the number of restart on the tree view, as well as there is a new feature added by Sindhu where we are showing the container status. So I guess this would solve.
Interesting. Let me ping you this here. Let me ping you here, Ashutosh, and then maybe we can move forward with this.
Okay, yeah, I can look into this issue and close it.
Okay, let me comment this, pinged you so we can, yeah, keep track on this one. Cool, thanks Ashutosh, thanks everyone. All right,
yeah,
so
that was the only topic I had for triaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks Ishita. I don't see Remington here, so I guess we can move forward. We have quite a few topics today. I am not sure if we're gonna have time to cover all that. So if there's something that we are unable to cover this week, so we're going to move to next week. Let's see how that goes. So let's try to do it. Sorry, I was almost forgetting. We need to come up with a list of people to do triage and discussion next week. So any volunteers?
Leo, I can take secondary.
Okay, so Ashtosh and I can take primary, as it's been some time I didn't do it, so we can do it together. Thanks, Ashtosh. Are you in the list? Yes, you are. Cool. All right. Okay, first topic we have for the day is discussion brought by Lucas. Are you in the call?
Yeah, I'm in the call.
Cool. So you want to say a few words about this, Lucas?
Yeah. Hi. Cool to have the opportunity to present the question here. So I'm working for a DevOps team at Get Your Guide, and there we are using the Argo CD for a while there. And now we would like to be sure that our engineers have a really good service quality, and we would like to also be informed about the service problems before it will cause any serious issues. So because it's like a core part of our infrastructure, right? I mean the Argo CD service, and this is how we end up with some SLO definition, and we are using Datadog. So we just based on the Argo CD metrics. So for all the services there, we looked on those which are important to us, which could indicate some problems. But we are still like trying to find the threshold and try to find the right metrics which we should monitor and what values they should have. And that's why I was also searching for some guidance in Argo CD, and I didn't found ones. Now I have two questions. The first one is, if you have any SLO definition which you can share, I will really appreciate that. And the second is how I can contribute to the project with my SLO definition, because I found that you have like a Grafana dashboard. So maybe like some proposal of Grafana alerts, I think it's called like that in Grafana, will be okay for you, because yeah, then like other users can also reuse that and we'll just have it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my take on this, I believe SLO is really specific company by company. So I'm not sure we can come up with something that works for all the companies. We can share maybe some strategies that we apply for a company at the size of Intuit, and certain things that we do. But again, yeah, coming up with a standard that fits all the companies that uses Argo, I think it's I'm not sure if we're going to be really yeah.
I think so from my guts, I would say this may be a topic also for the SIG scalability. Right.
Most
I mean,
likely, yeah.
We definitely can't come up with a, like you said, Leo, I totally agree with you that that this is probably a very specific thing to set up for each and every company according to their requirements. But I also see the issue here that it's not really clear what what people can look for. So what exactly the metrics are, how you can monitor them for certain things to happen in your Argo CD. So what can you look for that indicates that you may have a problem or that you may run into a problem soon, right? But I also think that this is a task that SIG scalability could take on, right? Like
Yeah.
giving
Yeah, I agree.
recommendations for the metrics and watch how they make recommendations for what you can do if you hit a certain level of something. And yeah, so maybe just as an idea. So
I agree 100%. So I posted the channel in Slack for Argo 6 scalability. There was a presentation in there like 2 weeks ago that went through a number of different metrics that was really interesting and talked about how they changed with different scalability challenges. So I would join that channel. You can check out the presentation there. And then we have 6 scalability meetings, I think either every other week. So we're due for 1 in 2 weeks. There was one that was scheduled for earlier this week that got canceled. But so there'll be one in like 2 weeks. And that'd be a great place to join. And a lot of the people there are, big, heavy Argo users and be a good place to brainstorm.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So I will then definitely join there, and yeah, and maybe have some also solutions, some recommendations there. Will be nice.
Cool. Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for putting this discussion up. All right, so let's move on. Next topic, Alex. Prune outside of Argo's outside of AutoSync. Is Alex in the call? I don't see him in the call, but I looked in the issue, and today we have prune as part of the automated section in the application resource, and there is a suggestion to move prune outside, which is a breaking change. So I think I'll just reply in the issue itself, maybe a suggestion to avoid the breaking change. Okay, so Alex is not here.
I don't even understand why they would want to move the prune out of, because it's ultimately it's an autosync option, right? It defines whether your autosync will also prune resources.
Right. That's the current behavior. Yeah.
It is, and I mean, for each of the manual sync, you just specify it manually, right? You can. I think it's enabled. If you do it in the UI, it's enabled by default.
I think users have to click, if I'm not mistaken. So they have to click the prune in the UI. Is not selected by default, and I think that's
okay.
I think that's the complaint.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think what they are requesting here is like right, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically
small usability improvement. Is, I guess, my biggest problem with that is the breaking change that it would bring.
Yeah, the question would be if it could be implemented in another way, because I think it's good to have that. I mean, it's ultimately this is an autosync configuration toggle, and maybe there could be another set instead of moving that setting out of the automated sync. Maybe we could implement it in another way, like like a default behavior, setting the default behavior for manual sync prune.
Yeah, so maybe I can also add something here, because I'm actually working together with Alex and we look into that issue. So he also, in beginning of his comment, he wrote that it's particularly the problem for a rollback. So if we will roll back and then we will activate the auto sync, we will lose the prune option. So whenever other like solution will also cover that case, that is like fine, but it will be nice to have it, because if somebody now will roll back, needs to also enable the prune.
So
Okay.
so you're saying that if you roll back to a previous revision, and in between these two revisions you have introduced a new resource, so you don't want the automated prune in autosync enabled by default, but in case of a rollback, you want that to be that the resources are being pruned that were introduced in between these two revisions.
I mean, it's not probably about the revision itself, but normally if you are rolling back to some older revision, you will be asked if you should disable the autosync, and the people will say yes, right? And in that moment, you will just change the autosync behavior. Now, if you will then, let's say, fix the problem, you will deploy the new version, you will enable autosync, then the prune will be disabled per default. So it will not like store or reuse the version, the prune setting which was before. So it's about like persisting the prune property in during the rollback and
okay, I understand.
Which seems to be like a different, slightly different issue. The main one is a usability issue, and what Alex is referring to here, it seems to me like a bug.
Yeah, I would agree. It's basically two different use cases there, right? Two slightly different problems.
Okay, so maybe what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna reply in this ticket, just with my concerns on whether or not it's a good idea to break this API. Maybe have an additional attribute instead of moving it outside, but having something like auto prune outside of the automated section. I don't know. Maybe.
So maybe something. I mean, to address this specific issue, right? This one that the prune setting is lost when you disable autosync.
I think it would address both.
But for this, I mean, this is a breaking change, and I don't think it's valuable that the reason for that is valuable enough to make a breaking change.
No, I'm not saying we should do the breaking change.
And I just wanted to bring up the idea. So when you in the rollback scenario, when it asks you, do you want to disable autosync? So if we say yes, we could store the previous autosync settings in the status, right, of the application.
Yeah.
And if someone turns on autosync again, then we will look in the status field if there is some saved settings,
right,
and just reapply them, right? That would at least solve this particular problem. I think it could solve it. Like if you have some stored default settings or previous settings, then if someone turns on autosync, but maybe there's also some implications that I didn't thought about, like, but that could be possible, right? So
yeah, I agree. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna add a comment here with what we discussed. So let's move on. All right, so we have another one from Jaideep. Are you in the call, Jaideep? Yes, you are. Application controller scalability issue. Open here.
Yeah. So this is something that we're observing right now, even with OpenShift GitOps. We're working with customers and running into some scalability issues. And I came across this issue while I was investigating, which looks very similar in terms of same symptoms. So basically, what we're observing here is that at a certain load, if even if like the application controller is maintaining a certain number of namespaces in namespace scope mode, for example, at some point, the application controller gets stuck and kind of crashes. You can see that because in the logs, we've noticed a lot of context canceled error messages, and even the resource usage, the CPU usage, memory usage kind of drops to 0. And then basically the apps then just sit there unreconciled, and the app controller has to be restarted to get back, get going again. So these were the same symptoms we were seeing with our customer as well, and they were saying that it's happening fairly frequently, at least once a day almost. And then I came across this issue, and it seems like a lot of people are still facing this, even with recent releases. And I kind of wanted to just bring this up with the community and see if this is something, if people have any ideas of where we could start with this, because like at least while I was working trying to help our customer out, like we've tried suggesting workarounds like increasing the status processors, operation processors to a certain amount, or set repo server timeouts, etc. But with the idea of trying to figure out what the underlying issue is and try to figure out a long-term solution for it, I thought it'd be good to bring it up here and see if people in the community have thoughts about this.
I do have some thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for one, I think that people may, in this issue at least, may mix up things. But yeah, so from what we've researched is that there may be a hidden deadlock somewhere in the status processors. So at least 2 or 3 of our customers, they ran into situations where the reconciliation completely stops, right? And from the logs, I could see that that the status processors have been basically eaten up, right? They and then there is another issue that Jaydeep just brought up, like with if you manage the more than a couple of namespaces, right? Then we run into a cache issue. But I think it's really 2 different issues there.
Yeah.
So, and this issue is mixing it up because someone says, hey, I see these symptoms, and someone else sees similar symptoms and says, hey, I'm affected by this as well. So, but yeah, I think we really need to, to decipher that. But yeah, it's becoming a more and more pressing issue, especially like the deadlock situation. And I think it happens, there is somewhere a race condition when a cluster is being removed from Argo CD and an application that is targeting that cluster is deleted using with a resource finalizer. So that's the trail that we currently follow, that would trigger that deadlock.
Yeah, I guess the main challenge here is really to reproduce.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
This
So
is-
adding to it, I don't remember having had this controller completely stop reconciling issue. I don't remember honestly having that.
Yeah, we have seen it just recently.
Okay.
At an increasing pace at large customer installations. So
Interesting.
and so what they have in common is, so we have something that's called advanced cluster management, that allows you to have multiple clusters managed by Argo CD in a very automated fashion. So it creates the cluster secrets and removes them, and there's a lot of magic involved there, right? And that's the similarity that we see.
We have that too. We have that specific configuration add into it, and we're not facing this issue.
Yeah, probably because so what happens is that there is an application set involved in this scenario with the new cluster decision resource generator, which basically takes those ACM things. So there is a thing called placement and placement decision that figures out, you know, which clusters are managed by which Argo CD. And I have seen there is a bug in that generator, or in the constellation that this generator is working in. Like it removes a cluster, and the application set doesn't generate the applications on a per cluster base, but on an information from ACM. And when this information is removed, the application set removes the application, but doesn't remove the application finalizer, right? The resource finalizer. And then suddenly thereafter, the cluster is removed from Argo CD. So while the application is deleting with resource finalizer, the cluster is going away. And this is the lead that I have that is triggering this situation. That is why you may not see it, because maybe you use a cluster generator, it handles it right? Because once the cluster is gone and the application destination is invalid, then the resource finalizer is being removed from the application before it's deleted, because it makes sense, because Argo CD can't remove the resources from a remote cluster it does not know about, right? So anyway, just my.
Yeah, that makes sense. Adding to it, we don't have that removal of clusters happening that often, so that might be a lead on.
Yeah, but still it's difficult.
Yeah,
to reproduce.
But I will mention, I think there's people on this issue that have said they're facing this even if they're just managing a single cluster.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying that people may confuse something, right? I mean, it happens often that people say, hey, I am affected by this as well, but it's a different thing. Because so it's just my, you know, my thoughts. It's easy to say, hey, yeah, I'm having this too, but I have not seen any evidence from those people that this is the same issue.
Do our binaries ship with race detection capability? I don't know if that's a thing that just comes with the Go binary or if you need external tooling, but if this is a race, maybe just on one of these instances where it happens every day, run the race detector.
Yeah. And yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I know our unit tests we run with race. So if we have a unit test covering this part of the code, we should be able to identify race conditions there.
Our unit test coverage of the controller itself is pretty poor. Just because of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if it's a race condition in the Go code itself, like you know, the classical race condition that the race detector would detect, like concurrent access to a map or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But somehow maybe it's more of a timing issue, right? So like but I'm not sure. I agree. In the initial report of this issue, I also classified this bug as like what did they write? Heisenbug. I like that term.
Yeah. What that means? It's German?
No, I don't know. I think it's
okay.
It's a reference to Heisenberg. Like I don't know.
uncertainty principle. I think
Yeah.
it's you can't know two. It's two things you can't know at the same time.
Right.
Difficult to predict situations, I think, is what it refers to.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think the main challenge here is really reproduce this in a way that we can identify the root cause. In this particular case here, this error message bothers me a bit. It seems like client Go client is being throttled,
Yeah.
right? So, which might explain the situation where even having one single cluster synced by Argo CD, still Cube API is the one having rate limiting or some
Yeah.
sort of configuration that way. Yes, go ahead, Jen. Yeah.
This is something we also currently look at the SIG scalability,
Yep.
because there is the client side limiting in the Go client, right?
Yeah.
Which can be tuned using environment variables, pretty undocumented feature.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think they mentioned also self-heal here, right? Maybe I'm confusing things. Maybe this is not the same issue that we see with our customers.
Yeah, I mean, specifically with our customers, the other thing is also that they're using an app of apps, so like monorepo setup also. So I think they have like one repo which has like 150 apps or something in it. And I don't know if that's a use case we are still supporting or not, or like if that is something we'd consider when we decide to pursue an optimization to try and support it in that case, because I'm sure that even that kind of support could affect the efficiency or performance of an instance, as opposed to using app set or just using separate apps as opposed to a monorepo. Could that be a factor here as well?
Sure. Okay, so what is the suggestion here? Do we move this to scalability as well, or try to reproduce? I don't know if someone has the bandwidth to try to reproduce this. Again, adding to it, we're not facing this particular issue. We're facing different issues. Somehow at the same part of the code is related to sending a lot of high volume of requests to Cube API. So this is something we are facing. So maybe some improvements that we do in that front could potentially help addressing this issue as well somehow. So yeah, I have different mixed feelings about this, basically. Want to ask your opinion about this, about how to properly address this issue.
Yeah,
Any suggestions?
I mean, I could also bring it up in the SIG scalability channel and see if someone has something to say about this. But yeah, I mean, I kind of get the feeling that it can be many different issues underlying, all kind of bubbling to the surface, looking the same. I don't have any great suggestions for immediate actions either, especially if race condition detection is also not really guaranteed to help us catch these things at compile time.
Okay, so Jaideep, can you maybe bring this to the scalability SIG?
Yeah.
For further discussion there?
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so next one, Danny Hawkins.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Long time user, first time contributor.
Cool. Congratulations. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, basically, if you look at the linked issue, it's been some people have been requesting it for some time. It's just the ability to substitute envars in the manifests or in the values or wherever. And then I needed to do that as well. And I found a kind of hacky way to do it. But then I thought, you know, I'm a programmer. I don't know Go, but I'll give it a go. And I learned Go. There's a lot of Go in there. And yeah, so I thought this could be a good first PR. It's quite small, actually. It's a very small PR. Should be. And the questions I had 2 questions, which were the documentation. Is that generally included as part of the PR?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
so I can add that. And then the other thing was the state, the feature state. So there's a thing in the documentation about feature states being alpha, beta, and I was aware that this change, everything would run through it because it's the final generate manifest from the repo server. So I didn't know whether it should go into alpha or beta or how that process works in terms of release.
Right. I in your PR, I didn't see any sort of feature flag at this.
That's what I mean. Yes. Do I need to add feature flags?
Yeah, I think it depends on whether or not we want to go forward with this approach. I quickly looked at your PR. Maybe a quick suggestion I would provide is have something more, something more obvious that this is not provided by Argo CD, but it's a custom environment
Okay.
variable.
Yeah.
Provided
So
by
we can do.
users.
What about something like custom_env?
Yeah, something like that, or Argo CD user env or
Ah,
whatever.
yeah, Argo CD. Yeah, I think Argo CD user env sounds pretty good.
Yeah, this is one thing that came to my mind, and the other thing is it's a more conceptual thing, and I maybe would like to discuss with everyone else to whether or not maybe to discuss if this is a good idea in terms of, because this logic was added in the generate manifest function, which is the same function that invokes Helm generator, customized generator, and standard manifest, vanilla manifest.
That was on purpose to save having to, change every place in the code, like application controller, JSON, blah blah blah. Really, the only thing we're trying to substitute is the final manifest. So
yeah. So one thing that came to my mind is mainly the question to whether or not this is the best place to add, because we're mainly changing how. So this is not a feature that is provided by Customize or Helm, right? So we are adding this inside Argo CD. So it's really specific to Argo CD itself. I'm mainly questioning myself if this is best place to add this specific logic, or maybe having a dedicated CMP that does that. So it delegates to the underlying manifest generator, Helm, customizer.
We wanted to use CMP, and we did CMP for a while. The biggest problem with that was that the fantastic addition of multiple sources, it doesn't work with CMPs. It's not, so you can't use multiple sources like for the Helm and for the values inside CMPs. And so that's why, again, I put it at the very final stage of generate manifest, so that basically everything that generates a manifest can benefit from it.
Yeah, I think that decision is logical. So from my point of view, it sounds logical, but it opens up a broader discussion, and in my point of view, because in the past we have talked about something like manifest post processor, right? Basically, this is a manifest post processor. So, and I think the general consensus back then was, no, we don't want to have manifest post processing. But I'm not opposed at all at re-evaluating this discussion or decision. I don't think we made a decision back then, but I think the general consensus was like, no, we feel that this is not our space of doing stuff like this, right? But to be fair, in the past, that discussion was also around like, having a post processor like a kube linter or something like that would affect the manifest generation. Like it would abort if the linter would throw some warnings or errors about the manifest. But yeah, this is think this is something we should make up our mind on. I personally like this idea. And just as a small review comment on the fly, we do have a nsubst utility in Argo CD, like a library, right? That is a little bit more I like the word sophisticated than the simple strings replace, because the strings replace no, it's in the replace and force and manifest, like just simply replacing a string is usually not sufficient. So that's maybe you could take a look at I think it's in util nsubst, whether you could leverage that, because it takes in a lot of edge cases into considerations, which goes beyond the simple strings replace. So
that's great.
There's an open PR that I think can solve this in two different ways. It's by Gergely, I'm forgetting his last name, but basically it adds the ability to reference arbitrary files from other sources in a multi-source app. So that would solve your first problem, because you could reference an external values file or whatever really from your CMP source. The second way it would solve it is it would unblock chained plugins. And I think the chained plugins would be an excellent way to support this, because plugins receive arbitrary input, doesn't even have to be valid YAML, and they produce manifests. So it would be the job of your plugin to accept the manifests from the previous render, either from a Helm source or from another CMP, and then do the env substitution.
We did talk actually about being able to use a config map or something for these values instead of mvars. So you would basically populate your cluster with a config map or a secret, and then be able to reference that as values in sources. So it sounds like that PR might be something that's similar.
That plugin would enable this. I mean, if you're using a plugin, you can do anything you want. You can reference sources from, ChatGPT if you want. This PR would just enable like pulling information from another source, and it can be any file that's in the other source.
So Ishita pinged one PR. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yep,
Michael.
This was the same PR which Michael was addressing.
Cool.
Yeah.
And is okay, there is a reference to that one. Let's see. This is 7189. Yeah, it doesn't have a reference to that. Let me just add a reference here so we can keep track of it.
I think this is a far more generic solution, which could solve a lot more use cases. One thing that concerns me about arbitrary nvar substitution is if you do it in a text fashion, it means that an nvar can write arbitrary YAML. I'm not sure we want to build a tool that does that. That may be a little bit too open-ended, unless someone does it in a plugin, in which case they can do what they want.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good use case for plugins, and what you described as having chain plugins sounds like a simple ish way to address this, Michael.
Yeah, and people have asked a lot for change plugins, so it's useful for a lot of people.
So you can rely on the manifest generation from Customize and Helm that is already provided by Argo CD repo server, and at the very end, just delegate to the final plugin. Is that my understanding correct?
Exactly.
Cool. Would you be okay in investigating this possibility, Danny?
Yeah, definitely. I'll check it out.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks a lot. Yeah, and if you have any problems, issues with that, let us know. We can support you on that too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take a look for other stuff I can contribute to.
Sure. Yeah, you're more than welcome. Thanks a lot.
I just wanted to add for this one, Michael, if you could review this one. I think this is in a mergeable state. I think the CI is only are failing, so he's just trying to rebase that thing.
Okay. The thing about this PR is it involves a lot of potential places for path traversal. So I'm going to need a coffee and a beer and an hour to review this one.
Yeah, this takes a while. This PR takes a while. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. We are already 3 minutes over.
Leo, just
yes,
one thing I just want, just regarding the proposal which I've added. I think we
This one?
discussed, we discussed briefly last time too regarding this one. I just wanted a few eyes on this. This proposal just gives solves two concerns. That's changing the application controller from stateful set to deployments, and dynamically redistributing the clusters across shards. So if it's possible, it would be great to get some reviews on this one.
Ishita, could you present this proposal and the ideas behind it in the next SIG scalability meeting?
SIG scalability, that happens on Tuesdays, right?
I think so.
I'll try to find that on the calendar. Sure.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of time. I'll have to move the remaining topics for next week discussion. Yeah, sorry for that. Any last minute, we're already over, but any last minute, super important topic someone wants to bring? If not, yeah, I'm gonna move those things to the next meeting, and see you next Thursday. Thanks, everyone.